Well, good morning guys, welcome back to a chilly morning here at Barham Engines. So guys, I don't want to keep going on. I know some of you get annoyed by me asking. A lot of you, 80% people that view our channel are not yet subscribed, have started subscribing, so our count has been going up, so thank you very much for that. But if you haven't already guys, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell and you'll be notified whenever we do a video. Cheers guys. So these two engines here are two more that we've had come in. This one here is a Series 1 Land Rover that obviously has seen better days. So apparently this is a donor engine to go into the Land Rover that the chaps bought. You paid quite a lot of money for it because as you all know, these Land Rovers are fetching big money now. We've got a couple of buckets of supposedly all the bits there. The cylinder head there looks like it's had mice living in it for the last 30 odd years. So, but apparently, yeah, it's all there. The block looks horrible. But although it does look horrible, you can see some grease in there, so it's obviously been stored fairly well, or someone's sort of preserved it to sit and store for years on end. But yeah, so hopefully guys, it's not too disastrous when we get in amongst it. As I said in a previous video, one of the engines we were quite excited to sort of get in amongst. We've took all the covering off this and obviously revealed something that resembles a little bit like a boat anchor, but I'm sure it's all there and reconditionable. We've seen a lot worse in the past, but this engine here is out of a Mark II Escort rally car. It did belong to a very well-known rally driver, this car. So the guys, I think he's going to restore the vehicle. It's come from South Africa, and this engine was in it for part of the rallies or something like that, whereas I think it used to have a BDA in it, or afterwards had a BDA, but this is the original engine that was in the vehicle, apparently. So all we've got to do with this, first of all, is strip it, see what we got, see what spec it is. We're going to go ahead and fully recondition that, so that would be absolutely lovely if it is, you know, the engine that the customer thinks it is. Really interesting to get in amongst that, guys. It is, so it's a 2-litre Pinto. What it's bored to, I ain't got a clue yet, but yeah, quite excited to get in amongst that. Here we have got the Cosworth pre-crossflow. That one is all done, and that is going back to Malcolm. We've got to send that on a pallet. Just got to stick core plugs in that. That is the crossflow, the one that's the trick one that's going in the Mark I Escort, and the one that we're really looking forward to seeing going at Castle Combe at some point. So, oh yeah, we've got the V8 over there. We've got the Golf R engine, which is pretty much stripped. We've just got to go through that, go through the cylinder head, have a look, see what it needs. And the guy, I think, is going to go for big piston, you know, decent pistons and rods, and push for sort of 500 horsepower on that. In this bay over here, Paul has made a space and he's going to get involved in the M20 BMW. So this is a strip check, see what's going on with it, and see if it's all sort of salvageable. Then I've got to get back to the customer with some sort of idea of price, but quite looking forward to getting into the M20. They're a good little engine, really. Nice 6-cylinder 2.5, nice and simple, single cam, 12 valve, lovely engine really. So here is the 701M block, guys. As you can see, I've got the liners in. We've just faced the block. As you can see, we've got the slightly bigger top hat now. Ended up taking about 5 thou off this block face to get it right. At the bottom, you can see I set it up on the mill. You've got the cutouts there for the com rods, which some people go at with the grinder, but I've just set it up on the mill and I mill them out properly. So it's a proper job. We've just got to deburr that. You can see the liners are sitting flush with the base of the block, so that is absolutely perfect. So in the end, we did manage to find some liners that were slightly bigger outside diameter. So by the time we bored it, peeled the old liners out, we just had to take a little bit of material out the existing bore to fit these liners. And then there was a millimetre to take out of these liners for the pistons that we got. And here's the pistons. So we've got some lovely Omega items here to go in there. We might just have to machine the top of the block depending on the gasket thickness that we can use. All I've got to do now, guys, is just hone this out a couple of thou and that block is all done. Right, guys, we've got an S54 BMW cylinder head here. Now this isn't the S54 that belongs to the same Pistons as we've had the issue with, the big power one. This is off another track car, I think, and the gentleman brought it in saying that it got a bit of a misfire on one of the cylinders, so he sort of suspected that it could have a sticky valve. He said the weird thing was when he did the valve clearances beforehand, all the shims were okay except for one of the end ones, where he had to use bigger shims, which seemed a bit odd, and then he ended up with this misfire. So the only thing to do was to take the cylinder head off and sort of investigate. I said it could be anything. It could be carbon build-up on the seat or something like that, just keeping it open, because he said it didn't happen all the time, weirdly. But on further inspection, we've obviously got the cams and that here. We've took off the springs yesterday, and I sort of vacuumed the valves and didn't get anything on the exhaust. I thought that's a little bit odd. So when I took all the valves out, if I spin these valves, if you look at the shaft of the valve wobbling about, it's actually got all of the valves are bent. So although he was only getting sort of only down on compression on the end one, they're all bent. So something's happened with this, with the timing, I expect. But really weirdly, what tends to happen is it kinks the stem, but still, because the springs are strong, it pulls the head into the seat and you still get vacuum on it. So yeah, really strange how it's only happened on one, but as you can see, evidently that is fairly bent on all of them. So he wants to go for the Supertech valves on all of them, so I'm going to measure these up, get in touch with Mar Motorsport and order a full set of valves. But yeah, not quite sure what's happened with that one. So there is the S54 head, guys. You see that Isaac has soda blasted all the combustion chambers and all down the ports. You see these S54s, lovely porting job from Standard, really. Absolutely lovely head. And on sort of close inspection, it hasn't really, although it's bent the valves, it hasn't damaged the seats in any sort of way that we can't sort out. So if you have a look, try and focus the camera, if you have a look on the 45-degree angle where the seat sits, or the valve sits on the seat, you can see it's slightly pitted. So what we're going to do is just give that, with our 3-angle cutter, we're just going to face all those seats very nicely, all ready for the new Supertech valves. And yeah, then we shall obviously, as long as they vacuum all okay, we shall turn it over and do the valve clearances, because these are a shimmed type with the rockers that sit on top of the shims. So yeah, all looking a little bit better than it was. Here is the block, the 701M block, and you can see that is all complete now, all ready for the new Pistons. The customer is obviously going to be building this because they are a Lotus specialist. Now, I said to you in the last video that obviously it was bad enough. This engine is all pretty fresh, really, and one of the only sort of issues with it is that the liners had dropped and obviously done the gasket. And being a fresh build, obviously someone has spent the time and the money and the effort putting the liners in and doing the engine properly. Obviously there's all the new parts and what have you, so that was the first error. The last thing we had to do, we've got the com rods here out of that engine. Now these are the rods as they've come straight out the engine. You can see no one's really done anything with these rods. And this, bear in mind, they were fitted to the engine, and although they didn't appear to be giving too much of an issue at this stage, so it's obviously not run very long, this is the problem we see a lot in some of our old engines that we get in, that people have already done, or we hear of people sort of that send machining to us that build engines, and they just, because there's been no sort of apparent real issue with the big ends, as in they haven't spun an end or done a big end, they just seem to assume or don't realise that really you should check the housing diameter and obviously the crank journal and make sure it's all within tolerance. And once you've done that, we always sort of plastic gauge to get a good indication of what running clearance it's running. Now I have gone about just to check these rods and obviously see if they need sizing, and 3 of these rods are about 1/4 thou oval, and not only that, but from front to back they're just a different diameter. So these rods are all over the place. So I've rang the customer and said, listen, it's only a matter of time, I would say, especially if it's a race engine, how long these are going to last. So we're going to do away with these. I'm not even going to bother sizing them. Something weird has been happening. They've just misshapen, and we do find that more so on like the pre-crossflow and the crossflows, and that they sort of go misshapen. So we're going to do away with them, and we're either going to get some QED rods or some bridgeways from Mar Motorsport if they do them. But yeah, another thing, guys, that someone's obviously just took for granted that these are going to be all right, but they're certainly not going to be all right. As I say, 3 or 4 thou. See, if the crank measures on bottom limit, you're going to end up, you could potentially end up with about 4 or 5 thou running clearance in areas on these rods, and that is not good enough at all. So there we go, guys. I do hope that you are learning something from our videos with the techie stuff, things like the rod housings and that. Remember, don't take anything for granted. I hope you have a lovely weekend, guys. Until Monday's video, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we will see you then. Cheers.